Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I would like to introduce to you three articles of interest. And before I do that, I would like to let you know that this is for review, informational, and educational purposes. It's not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. The full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which in this case is View Us Global, and the story by Felix Cho. The headline reads, TSMC sued for alleged racial discrimination. American workers speak out against bias. Yes, it's very important when you go to another country to follow their laws. Otherwise, there'll be a financial or legal penalty, which is actually legal penalty is connected to the financial penalty. But yes, there will be a penalty for not following the law. So let's continue. Ahead of you, see a picture of the TSMC building. And caption reads TSMC. Now to the article itself. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, is sued for alleged discrimination against American employees at its Arizona facility. Now, the key word is alleged because it hasn't been proven or hasn't been determined legally in the courts or whatever court system that is true. So the important thing to say is allegedly. Okay. On Thursday, IT media outlet 9TO5Mac reported that TSMC's U.S. facility employees filed a pro-American racial discrimination lawsuit against the company. The lawsuit claims that TSMC favored Taiwanese employees and created a disadvantageous work environments for American staff. Excuse me. According to the legal complaint, TSMC allegedly engaged in discriminatory practices such as conducting local meetings in Chinese rather than English, to deliberately exclude American employees and issuing biased performance evaluations against them. Although TSMC is Taiwanese based, they have the same base culture. And the reason why I know that is because I have been to Taiwan. Although it was 10 years ago, but yes, I have been there. And I have worked at I actually used to teach English, so in this case, actually, I can tell you it's true. It's not just a Chinese thing, Asians do it in general, and it's their way of basically excluding people. So, but it's obvious because it's like, okay, this is in the US, why are you not conducting the meetings in English when the official language of the country is in English? I can only imagine having an American company in Taiwan and only having the meetings in English when everybody else, not everybody, but a large majority of the country in the official language of the country is English, and only having English and not having it in Chinese, like English and Chinese, or, Chinese or whatever. At least having it in Chinese for part of it. But these people, if this is true, okay, again, this is a legend. It's an important thing to say for legal liability reasons. If this is true, this will set a precedent about how business is going to be conducted, because you might have actual Chinese companies, as in from mainland China, come to U.S. to do business, and if they have American employees that's in the same meeting, they have to. They can't be doing this kind of thing. Okay, so I understand the frustration and the annoyance. And then the other thing about it that's annoying is if you have this kind of scenario, okay, by the meetings, they will basically say, well, it's your responsibility to know what was in the meeting, even though it's not in your language. Well, how is that? It wasn't in English. Well, you're supposed to ask so and so. They'll make some excuse about that you're somehow responsible for the information. Either they'll tell you you're responsible, or later on when you didn't know something and they there's some sort of reprimand, will say, oh, well, but it was in the meeting. Well, yeah, so it's about time that the U.S. has gone back to its roots and said American first. People want to come to this country. That's okay. You have to acclimate to the country. This is my opinion. If I go to another country, which I have, guess what I had to do? I had to acclimate to their culture. I had to be polite to their culture. I had to try to speak their language. I tried to be polite as much as possible. But these people, they come to the US and they think it's like, it's just their mentality hasn't changed. See, that's really the difference between the West and Asia in general is when they go to the West, all they do is transplant themselves. They don't actually adapt their mentality, adapt their behavior for the place that they are and the people they're dealing with. So that's been my observation, but obviously not everybody's that way. But of course, I didn't say everybody. I was speaking in generalities, which is according to my anecdotal experience, which is kind of funny, but according to my experience and according to what understandable to culture. So, yeah, that's why there's Chinatown. That's why there's a Koreatown. That's why there's a Japantown. And also, that's why they have these Asian areas where they generally don't go out of their area. But hey, if that's how they want to live, they're a human being. They're entitled to do that as long as they don't break the laws of the country. But don't expect people to make friends with them. Don't expect people to do business with them. And don't expect people to condone their behavior. So that's just my opinion. And we're doing a review, so that's part of the course. Now, also when you have biased performance evaluations, that's for sure discrimination. So, yeah, that is if that is true. TSMC has not officially commented on the lawsuit, but has maintained its stance that it provides equal opportunities to its employees. In related news, the completion ceremony for TSMC's Arizona factory, initially scheduled for December 6th, may be postponed. Gee, I wonder why. This potential delay is attributed to the combination of factors including heightened geopolitical tensions between the United States and China and ongoing discrimination controversy surrounding TSMC. Translation: they don't have the money for it because they're paying their lawyers. They're taking away from the time. So time is more valuable than money because money you can get back, but time you can never get back. Okay, so yes. Uh, but if I was them, I'd be speeding it up because I would be putting my factory in a secure place where it's protected. So just in case there's a war, guess what? It's the United States. And that will conclude that article. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that they should have to acclimate to the culture? Do you think they should have to follow the laws? Well, I can tell you, a law is a law, and doesn't matter if you're American or not American, it's still the law. So anyway, that's my opinion. Let's go to a second article of. Sorry, let's click on something here. Let's go to the second article of the review. And before I do that, I would like to let you know that this is for review, informational and educational purposes. It's not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. The full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which in this case is DMR, which is DMR News English. And the story by Yamaseta Un. Headline reads, Vietnam expands chip packaging as companies shift production from China. Of course, they've been doing that for a few years now, but what I've been saying all along on the take I have is what ability to produce chips do they have? Clearly, they don't have the population that China has, so relatively speaking on the scale. So if, let's just say, for example, and I don't know what the percentage of the population is qualified to do the job, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that let's say it's the same percentage of the population. We would see that China has much more people, at least on paper or at least allegedly, that are qualified to do this manufacturing job. However, which means that Vietnam doesn't have as many, or they're not as labor ready as China is. But companies will find a way to produce X amount of units anyway, one way or the other. A lot of times, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, have a chip in India, have a chip in Vietnam, have a chip in Thailand. See what I'm saying? Where you're diversifying each source. Ahead of you, you see the flag of Vietnam, and it looks like microscopic view of the chip or something like that. And the headline, the caption reads: Vietnam expands chip packaging and as companies shift production from China. Yeah. There's related to the first video. There's lots of geopolitical concerns about IP theft, at least alleged IP theft at the very least, um, and also about the cost, and also about other considerations. So if labor becomes too expensive in one country, what they'll do is they'll move it to another country. Now, whether or not you consider that to be greedy or what is a matter of opinion, but yeah, that's what it is. Vietnam is rapidly expanding its footprint in the semiconductor back and manufacturing sector, attracting foreign investment as companies reduce operations in China due to the escalating trade tensions with Western nations. Foreign companies and domestic firms are investing in testing and packaging chips in Vietnam, signaling the country's growing role in the $95 billion semiconductor back-end segment, which remains dominated by China and Taiwan. This shift is evident as companies focus on less capital-intensive back-end of chip manufacturing, with testing and packaging seen as more feasible compared to the strategic and costly front-end foundries. South Korean company Hana Micron is investing approximately 1.3 trillion won, which is $930 million, and its Vietnam operations through 2026 to meet industrial demand from clients seeking alternatives to China. Cho Hyung Rae, Hana Micron's vice president for Vietnam, noted that the expansion aims to address customer requests for relocating production capacity. US-based Amkor Technology, a major player in semiconductor manufacturing, also announced a $1.6 billion investment to build a 200,000 square meter, not foot, because there's 3 feet in a meter, so 200,000 square meter factory in Vietnam. So it's basically square meter is length by width, so whatever that amounts to. So I believe it would be something like 500 by 400 meters. So for people not from Europe, like for example, United States, um, they use feet. So if you want to visualize it that way, it's 500 meters, so times 3.2. So 1 meter equals 3.2 feet. So what you do is you take the 5, for example, because it says square, so it's length by width. So it's whatever number adds up to 200,000. So 500 by 400, for example. So 500 meters would be 500 times 3.2 in feet. And also 400 would be the same thing, 400 times 3.2 in feet. The new facility is expected to become Amkor's largest and most advanced, incorporating next-generation semiconductor packaging capabilities. According to a company executive, some equipment for the factory has been relocated from Amkor's Chinese plants, though the company declined to comment on its transfer specifics. Intel, which operates its largest global chip back-end facility in Vietnam, displaces this technology at Vietnam's inaugural International Semiconductor Exhibition near Hanoi, which is, of course, the capital city in northern Vietnam. Underscoring the sector's growth supported by the Biden administration, Vietnam's growth in the chip packaging and testing segment aligns with Washington's strategy amid heightened trade tensions with Beijing's protection by the U.S. Semiconductor Industry Association. And Boston Consulting Group suggests that by 2032, Vietnam's share of the global chip assembling, testing, and packaging market will reach 8% to 9%, up from 1% in 2022. So it's really big. So already 1 to 8, and then 8 to 9, so maybe Every year or two, maybe go up. Well, who knows how long that trend can last, but that's what it is. In a related video, it says how Chinese industry got too good too fast, as per Economics Explained. And this video will be available upon the publishing of this review, but not on the link, excuse me, but not available on YouTube, as in on my YouTube channel, because they don't allow links to to other articles. As what they'll do is, if you actually do it, you risk being flagged, and then you'll have to go through an appeals process to get it unflagged and possibly get a strike on your channel, which is no good. Although it doesn't make sense because all it is referring back to the website where you found it. It is what it is. So what I'm going to do is on the YouTube comments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the name of my Rumble channel, and then I'll put the link of my Rumble channel. So you either can go to rumble.com, put the name of my Rumble channel, it will be the video on the top, as you'll see the picture of it will be obvious. Or you could actually just like copy paste in the link to my video into the URL address bar, and then you'll be able to watch it, because you'll be able to go to the article and then actually click on the link so you can see. Now, continuing with the article. Vietnamese companies are also moving into the semiconductor space. FPT, a leading tech company, is building a 1,000 square meter testing facility near Hanoi, aiming to begin operations next year with an initial set of 10 testing machines. According to corporate sources, FPT plans to increase the number of testing machines by 2026 with an investment of up to $30 million, and actively seeking strategic partners in its endeavor. Meanwhile, Sofico Group, a local investment firm, exploring co-investment opportunities for the new ATP facility in the coastal city of Da Nang. Viettel, a state-owned defense and telecoms company, is planning to establish Vietnam's first chip foundry, a significant step towards Vietnam's goal of launching a semiconductor fabrication plant by 2030. Yes, Viettel is very famous for its telecom services. I also have been to Vietnam as well, so when you go there, that's pretty much your main one where you get, your cell phone service. Yes, I've been to many places in Asia, so I'm slightly outspoken on it. It's because of my own experience, and that's how people are in general. Now, the feature is image courtesy of Nikkei Asia, and the author would like to point out that you follow us for more updates on Vietnam's chip production. That is, if you'd like to, and that's interesting for you. Now, let's go to a third and final article of the review. And before I do that, I would like to let you know that this is for review, informational, and educational purposes. It is not to take the credit for the intellectual property of the article. The full credit to the intellectual property of the article goes to the publisher, which in this case is National Interest, and the story by Kristen D. Orr, with 2 R's. The headline reads, Stealth bombers on Navy aircraft carriers meet the A-12 Avenger 2, as in the Roman numeral 2. Looks like a triangular ship, something very futuristic. Caption reads, A-12 Avenger 2. What you need to know, okay, so you can see the photo right there. It looks pretty cool. What you need to know, the A-12 Avenger 2 is a stealth attack aircraft developed by General Dynamics and McDonnell Douglas, was intended to replace the A-6 Intruder in the U.S. Navy's fleet, featuring a flying wing design, advanced stealth capabilities, and cutting-edge technology. It was envisioned as a revolutionary platform. Excuse me. Now, you also see here, not here, but you see here, the same aircraft high up in the clouds. Well, actually, it looks like it's above the clouds, in fact, as you can see. Caption reads, A-12 Avenger 2, as in the Roman numeral 2. However, despite a promising concept, the project was plagued by delays, excessive weight issues, and soaring costs. After 7 years and $5 billion invested in the successful prototype, the program was canceled in 1991 by then Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. The FA-18E / F Super Hornet ultimately replaced the A-6, ending the Avenger story before it began. Yes, no comment about Dick Cheney, though. Yeah, no comment. That's all I can say about that. A12 Avenger 2, What Might Have Been. The word Avenger stems from the root word avenge, which Merriam-Webster defines as one to take vengeance on behalf of, or to do the exact satisfaction for, referring to a wrong by punishing the wrongdoer. So I believe what the point is here is that it's a very catchy um, name to have, as in people can remember it, and it also has a psychological impact in the minds of people. Meanwhile, the comic book nerds, The Avengers is a blockbuster Marvel Comics book. The comic book and the film franchise, whilst in 1960s TV buffs, The Avengers is a campy British spy series starring the late great Patrick McEnany and Diana Rigg as Mr. John Steed and Miss Emma Peel. I have to admit I've never heard of that, but that's okay. Moving on. To military aviation history buffs, meanwhile, the word Avenger could mean one of the two different planes. Number one is the Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers that made its contribution in America's defeat of the Imperial Japanese Navy, or IJN, in the Pacific theater of World War II, including the sinking of the two biggest battleships ever built, the Yamato and the Musashi. And by the way, if you didn't know, these are actually famous people and as samurais, especially Musashi. Musashi. Very famous samurai. And I believe Yamato was also a famous samurai, if I remember correctly. To a conceptual experimental fighter plane that could have conceivably revolutionized either the current or next generation of attack aircraft, i.e., air-to-ground combat, but alas never got off the ground in the figurative or lesser sense of the phrase. So then, dear readers, let's take a flight of fancy here and say hello to the hypothetical General Dynamics / McDonnell Douglas A-12 Avenger 2. Note the A-12 Avenger 2 is not to be confused with a Lockheed A-12 Oxcart spy plane, which bears a striking resemblance to another now Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works brainchild, the SR-71 Blackbird, which you guys have probably heard of, but also has some subtle yet important differences. So if you think about the SR-71, if I can pull it out, maybe we'll talk about the SR-72. I think they just came up with the SR-72, so that will be for a future article. I'm sure anybody interested in that would like to know more about the SR-72, which just came out recently, at least officially. A-12 Avengers 2 Early History and Specifications. The concept between the Avenger 2 traces its roots back to 1983 when the U.S. Navy kicked off the Advanced Tactical Aircraft, or ATA, program, whose intent was to develop and field a replacement for the Grumman A-6 Intruder, which had been in service since 1963. Attack aircraft by 1994, like the Intruder, the A-12 would have been an all-weather carrier-based bomber, with the added benefit of stealth technology, with even more advanced stealth characteristics that were used in the state-of-the-art F-117A Nighthawk. And this is, I believe, is a spy plane. The McDonnell Douglas Boeing / General Dynamics tandem won the bid for develop the platform in 1988. So it was quite huge at the time. I'll tell you that, that's for sure. As conceptualized, this was a warbird featured a flying wing design that bore at least a passing resemblance to the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirits. You might have heard of something called the B-2 bomber, so I believe that's what they're referring to, which is basically like a big plane that just flies up really high in the air and just like drops a whole bunch of bombs. Pretty awesome stuff. Had the Avenger come to fruition, it would have had the following specifications and vital stats. Number Crew 2, length is 37 feet 10 inches, wingspan is 70 feet 3 inches, the width is 36 feet 3 inches in folding wings, height is 11 feet 3 inches, empty wing is 39,000 pounds, max takeoff weight is 80,000 pounds, power plant 2 General Electric F412GE DSF 2 turbofan engines, 13,000 pound thrust airspace, a piece. Max speed was 500 kilometers, that is 575.3 miles per hour, which is Mach 0.65. Combat range is 800 nautical miles, which is 920 miles. Service ceiling is 40,000 feet. Armament payload capability is 5,160 pounds, which is 2,300 kilograms in the internal weapons bay, including 2 AIM-120 AMR AAM stands for Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile, nicknamed the Slammer. Advanced Radar Guarded Air-to-Air Missiles. 2 AGM-88 HARM stands for High Altitude Anti-Radiation Missile. Air-to-ground missile designed for destroying the enemy SAM radar sites. A-12 Avenger 2, why didn't it happen? Well, so what went wrong? The author points out that his colleague, Peter Sisiu, picks up the story. Quote, the program was seen to be going smoothly, but in fact, it was far behind schedule and way over budget. 7 years and $5 billion had been spent, and the aircraft was yet to be anywhere close to taking maiden flight. A significant issue was that the aircraft was simply too heavy and its developers were unable to reconcile the fact. Officials at the Pentagon essentially buried their heads in the sand, refusing to believe the project wasn't on track. Another issue was its use of composite materials, as was the maintainability. Costs continued to soar, and eventually the Department of Defense, or DoD, declared that the contractor simply could not complete, that is, the program as planned. Then Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney canceled the program outright on January 7, 1991. So no comment on that. Ahead of you see a picture of this A-12. So the caption reads as A-12 Avenger 2, which is what I'm referring to. Coincidentally, the cancellation date took place days before the Persian Gulf War, aka Operation Desert Storm, kicked off, whereupon the aforementioned F-1117 dramatically demonstrated to the public the deadly efficacy of the stealth technology in its bombing platform. I will say, based upon the reports I've heard, that is quite accurate. So yeah. After the inauspicious cancellation of the A-12, the USN, or the U.S. Navy, purchased the FA-18E/F Super Hornet, which ended up replacing not only the A-6 Intruder, but also the F-14 Tomcat. That's very iconic. If you've ever seen the movie Top Gun, that was that plane. Quite an amazing plane, the F-14 Tomcat, jet fighter for good measure, thus killing two stones with one bird. Killing two stones with one bird. No, you mean killing two birds with one stone. I think they have that backwards. And the idea with that expression is that it's super efficient because it can do two things instead of just one thing. But the bird would be the plane and not the stone. So, and the stone is, by the way, symbolic, meaning the action. Meanwhile, fast forward from January 1996, and a full-size Avenger 2 mock-up was revealed to the general public at the Naval Air Station NAS Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth, formerly Caswell Air Force Base, and Fort Worth, Texas. That mock-up was transferred to the Veterans Memorial Air Park, now known as the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, adjacent to the Meacham International Airport in North Fort Worth. In June 2013, a tangible reminder of what might have been. That excuse me. Ahead of you see a related video says why the U.S. Navy doesn't have a stealth bomber and explained. And that video is actually on YouTube, but you'll only be able to watch this, be able to access it from Rumble. So what I'm going to do is, as I can't actually give you the link to this article, I know that sounds stupid, but that's what it is, because in the past when I've included the links, like for example to the articles, they flagged my video and said, oh, it didn't, meet the standards. Is like, why is it not meeting the standards? All it is just a reference to it's just a link to the article. So be it as it may, I've preferred not to have to go through the process of appealing the video and risking getting a strike on my channel. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to put the link. I'm going to put the name of my Rumble channel and the link to my Rumble channel. From there, what you'll have the link to this article, and then you'll be able to watch the video. So pretty amazing. I'm going to watch it later as well. Now, to conclude the article about the author, Christian D. Orr is a senior defense editor for the National Security Journal, or NSJ. He's a former Air Force Security Forces officer, federal law enforcement officer, and private military contractor, with assignments worked in Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kosovo, Japan, Germany, and the Pentagon. Chris holds a BA in International Relations from the University of Southern California and an MA in Intelligence Studies, concentration on terrorism studies, from American Military University, or AMU. He has also been published in the Daily Torch, the Journal of Intelligence and Cybersecurity. Ooh, interesting. That's more my place, cybersecurity. Cool. There's some links here. They're in blue, so they're basic links, which you can click on and get some more information. In Simple Flying, last but not least, is a companion of the Order, the Naval Order of the United States, as an NOUS. Image credit goes to Creative Commons and/or Shutterstock. And that will end that article. I think that was quite informative. I like the design of the new one. I don't know how it would work in terms of like maneuvering, because it looks like it would have to take this long like turn around, but who knows? I guess if I knew that, I would be the one designing the plane and making buco, as they say in French, buco bucks, yeah, buco bucks, meaning a lot of money. So I'd like to ask your opinion about these three articles. First one, namely, is TSMC sued for alleged racial discrimination. American workers speak out against bias. The second one is Vietnam expands chip packaging as companies shift production from China. And the third is stealth bombers on Navy aircraft carriers meet the A-12 Avenger II. What do you think of those three articles? Are they interesting? Are they relevant to your life? Are they informative enough? Excuse me. You're welcome to give your comment, your opinion in the comments below. Just make sure you keep it constructive, as we're only looking to add constructive things and positive things to the experience. So you're welcome to put that in the comment section on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, because I'll have this uploaded on YouTube and Rumble. So what I typically do actually is I upload to Rumble first, because that's my number one channel, because that one you can immediately get, to be quite frank, you can immediately get monetization on that channel. YouTube one, you have to get like 4,000 subscribers and X amount of watched hours and all the stuff. With Rumble, well, the way it works is so you sign up on Rumble and everything, right? And then if the video qualifies to be, if it's approved, like there's no like copyright issues or something, it immediately gets monetization. So it depends on how many people view it and how many ads they can put, or whatever their exact formula is. But it has to do with the views and how many, and the ads they can put on the videos. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll be available on both. If you have any suggestions for future articles you'd like, please let me know. I'm more than interested. What I'm focusing on, just to keep in mind, I'm not trying to focus on other things. My niche is in current events and science and technology, okay? So if you have something you think is a special interest, such as if it's like, uh, you know, um, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, or like, something with like, like cryptocurrency or something with the economy. I mean, if you guys have a particular interest for those types of things, I can also add that as well because it would fall under the categorization of current events. So yes, more specifically, yes, of course, with yeah, technology in terms of the science in terms of the theory behind it, and technology in terms of how it's used for the things that they invent and come up with the explanations and engineering for. So with all that said, I'd like to take this time to thank you for watching this video. As you could be watching any other, current events or science and technology related reviews. So what I'd like you to do is please click like on the video. That way I'll be pushing the algorithm and more people will be able to view it and enjoy it. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. That way I'll have access to all the content on my channel, as I certainly do have a variety of content on this channel for you to view and enjoy. In addition to that, if you haven't already, please click the bell button. That way you'll be notified of all my future videos. So when a future video of mine comes out, you'll be notified accordingly and you won't miss any of them. So I'd like to wish you a great day wherever you are in the world. Take care